Before I introduce you to my next guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of a training and coaching resource to help you increase your productivity, clarify your purpose, and improve your communication skills. It's called the Next Level Coaching and Leadership with Purpose programs. To learn more, simply go to warrenwandling.com, and under the programs tab, you'll find both of those resources. Again, that's WARRENWANDLING.com. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated helping leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have a phenomenal guest with me today. Okay, I'm a little biased because it's my oldest daughter, Hannah, is with us today. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Hi, Dad. Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to our conversation because I know you have some great insight being a 20-something of how to really overcome obstacles. So I think some of our listeners will be able to benefit from your point of view.
Thank you. I'm excited to share.
Yeah. So as a graduate of K-State, as a world traveler, a very talented ballet dancer, and a fourth grade teacher, tell us about your missionary journey.
Yes, well, it all started when I was 13. I've always had a heart for individuals and for seeing them understand everything that they have been called to and who their purpose is and who they are. And so right now I'm a fourth grade teacher, and seeing each of my students every day, walking with them has been very good.
Wow, that's really awesome. That's really exciting, kind of that journey that you've gone to, because I know that you've definitely met a lot through of obstacles to be able to get what you've accomplished today. One of those obstacles that you met was getting through COVID when graduating K-State from that year, and that really kind of might have impacted that journey. Any insights from your experience going through that almost like 4 years ago?
Yeah, wow, I can't believe it was so long ago. But my biggest thing was knowing that I had time to pursue what the Lord had put on my heart. And so in that time, I started writing and just looking for what the Lord had next in my life. And so that's when I started traveling. And I know that's funny to say during COVID, I started traveling. But I did. And that was when the Lord started to open doors to really guide my missions process and allowing the Lord to work in my life.
Wow, very good. I know that you have had some experience doing, like we mentioned earlier, that you've done some world travel and some experience in that. But I'm curious, what's the greatest obstacle that, like your fellow leaders that you work with on a day-to-day basis, what's the greatest obstacle that they encounter, do you think?
Yeah, I think the greatest obstacle that leaders encounter is trying to appease to their followers rather than seeing what they need and what's best to push them forward in growth, seeing what they want and trying to appease wants and current desires rather than pushing them forward into lifelong success.
Wow, that's really great insight. I mean, that was almost like a mic drop, Hannah, because like for leaders to know that it's not about them, but you're there to develop their talent in the team so they could further their talents and growth, and so they could make an impact whatever they're doing.
Yes.
Wow. What's a key strategy that contributed to your success being a fourth grade teacher?
Yeah, I think being a fourth grade teacher, there's a lot of components in education. And so remembering first that what I do in my day is not who I am, but knowing that I am first a daughter of Christ and then second a teacher has really helped my success in being a teacher, because what I do in a day doesn't equal my success, but who I am is what is the most successful part.
Oh, awesome. So that's kind of a good balance. That's a good insight in reference to that. We all have different compartments, if you will, in reference to roles and responsibilities, and to make sure that we find balance, whatever our life makes, whatever that looks like for anyone. That depends if they make up specific balance in their life.
Yes.
Very good. So within your journey, what's one habit that has served you well during your journey?
Yeah, Dad. And I know we were joking about this earlier, but the habit that really has helped me the most in my journey is flossing my teeth. And now you might be laughing on the other side
Yes, I love that.
as
The
well, but
bar is set low here. I just want you to know, like,
okay, but let me explain why, because it is helpful to have an anchor habit. And so my anchor habit is flossing. And so in my journey throughout these last several years with missions and teaching, I always go back to flossing, because sometimes we in seasons get too many habits and lose track. And then also sometimes we don't have enough habits and also lose track. And so when both of those situations happen, I go back to, okay, I'm flossing my teeth. Where can I build from there? Because when you can build a habit and feel successful in one habit, you actually begin to build more habits and see success in other areas of your life. And then you start to get momentum. And from there, it's just a snowball of building good habits, successful habits, and feeling confident in where you're headed.
yeah. So Charles Duhigg, who wrote the book "The Power of Habits," is where I learned actually that concept, and I teach that in my seminars. Obviously, you've been listening if I've been practicing when you've been home or something, but that anchor habit is a really key in reference to have establishing more consistent habits in your life. So if you're thinking like for the next year, or maybe you're listening to this later when this podcast had been released, and you're one saying like, I want to establish new habits, pick something that you know that you're going to be able to accomplish so it's easy to do, and then know that you're going to follow through on it, like flossing your teeth. And that's going to help establish you that you can do more habits to keep in mind. So yeah, thank you for that's a great strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, it's a good one.
So in your opinion, what would you recommend our listeners to do if they wanted to build more resilience in their life? So obviously breaking through obstacles is key of this podcast. We teach that throughout the for the listeners. And one of the key aspects of breaking through obstacles is building resilience. So from your perspective, how do we build resilience?
Yeah, for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, typically the more exciting and the space that you're called to be in, typically the more resilience will come. And so one thing is, once you've like decided that you are doing the thing that you're doing, you don't have time to waste on negative thoughts. So, not giving your time to negative thoughts, not giving your time to self doubt, because you don't have time for that, because you need to spend your time um, focused on the thing you're called to. Also, deciding that you're going to show up to it even when you don't feel like it, because often our feelings, while helpful, are not great drivers. And so, not allowing your feelings to dictate if you're going to show up for the thing that you want to do, but showing up every day, and your feelings will follow afterwards.
Wow, that's some great insights to break through resilience. Because that used to be like maybe a soft topic, if you will, but I think in today's world, it's so volatile. We never know when the next disruption is going to happen. So for leaders to be able to continually developing that skill of breaking through their obstacles is having the strength of building really the skill around being resilient. So thank you for those strategies.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So one of the things about even building resilience is a key thing about understanding mindsets and limiting beliefs. So I'm really curious from your perspective, your generation, what are some strategies that you use personally to break through limiting beliefs?
Yeah, well, I know this wasn't that long ago, me being in my 20s, but back in after graduating high school and early college, I was afraid to go anywhere, do anything, and be seen. And to be a leader, you kind of have to have all of those things. So, um, big obstacles to overcome. However, it's possible. And so, what I did was I spoke words of affirmation over myself. So one of the things was I was very fearful just to walk into a room and be seen by people. And so I had an affirmation that I would speak over myself, that I am confident and excited to walk into a new space, and that people were excited to see me as well. And it took me years. So this isn't something you do in a night and then check, it's done. It took me years to read this over myself every single day, and then practicing believing it, even if I didn't feel it, until one day it became true that I could walk into a space and I wasn't going to crumble. And now I don't even need to read it over myself anymore. I can just walk into a room.
Wow. So what is, like, if our listeners wanted to really start using that practice, what would that look like? What would be the steps?
Yeah. So we all have things that we want to grow in and renew our mind in. So I would say pick 1 to 5 areas that you want to grow and gain more resilience in. And then once you've picked those, writing the positive version of that. So if you're feeling like me, I was not able to walk into a room. So speaking life, the opposite, I can walk into a room. So using that positive verbiage to speak the truth over yourself.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great tip as well. Making sure that you have the right mindsets is really critical of driving your leadership skills and being able to break through obstacles. So leadership is influence. I think you would agree.
Yes.
I think some of your leadership classes that you've taken and embraced in leadership that you're currently in. So since leadership is influence, what's one of the top strategies that you share with others to help them increase results?
Yes. Well, recently I took a leadership course and we studied the 21 irrefutable laws
Of leadership. Yeah, from John C. Maxwell. If any listeners haven't read any John Maxwell books, highly recommend any of his books.
Yes. And so one of his laws is the law of the lid. And this law really stuck with me because leadership is influence. And the law of the lid is that anyone following you cannot exceed where you're at. And so on a scale from 1 to 10, if you're only at a 4, your followers are not going to exceed you. And so as a leader, assessing the 4 areas of your life, spiritual, financial, health, just different family,
any of those.
Any of those. Thanks, Dad. Any areas of your life where you might feel that you are low, and seeing how you can raise the bar in your own life and break through there, because then once you've done that, you can lead your followers at a greater capacity in those areas.
Yeah, that's a great law. I love that law. So if you're not familiar with that law from John Maxwell, that's a really great law to really understand. And the tip that you shared, kind of doing a self-assessment, or I call it a self-audit in different areas of your life to see where you can improve. And we call that, from a coaching perspective, we close the gap, right? So from where you are to where you want to be, we close the gap to help you get better. So that's a great way to be able to assess that, to be able to say, take one area and continue sharpening that skill. Because what's interesting about the law of the lid, people that are not, like if they're at the 4 and that leader doesn't continue to grow, leaders on that team that are stronger than they are will leave their team. So that's the negative impact. As leaders don't continue to grow, others will move off their team. And the main thing of developing a good team is develop leaders that are stronger than you are around you.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's also important to not just assess the areas of leadership you need for your specific position, but also all areas of your life, because while you're leading in business in a specific area, your followers will see all areas, and they'll need that.
Very good. Yeah. So I think one of the clues, because success does leave clues, one of the clues in life are the authors that successful people have read. So I'm curious, from like your age at a 20 something, right? Obviously books have been in your life, maybe influenced growing up here. So what are some of the authors that have influenced you? Any books that come to mind?
Yes, I have read a good amount of books that have influenced me in my leadership. Yes, the first title that comes to mind, this is definitely a more 20-something book. However, Jordan Lee Dooley has several books that has really impacted me as a 20-something in leadership and finding my missions journey with the Lord. And another really good book That's really shaped my view on leadership, has been Master Leaders by George Barna. This book really gave me insight into many different viewpoints of leadership and how many leaders, while believing the same concepts, let them flow out of who they are and how they've been created in different ways.
Wow, very good. Yeah, so I'll definitely, those are some great books to add to your list if you've not read any of those titles. Very interesting. So leaders books are really great, right? In reference to giving you some insights, understanding how to continue to sharpen your leadership skills. So looking forward, what's kind of the future hold for you? Are you working any special projects?
Yeah, so currently I'm working on my master's in education so that I can be even more equipped for the field of education. Then I've also been working on a special project, working on a book. We'll see. It's in the early stages, so we'll see how it turns out.
Wow, I know that's really exciting. I won't let the cat out of the bag in reference to the title of the book or what it is, but that's really exciting that you're in that project, writing that book, because I know that's going to make an impact for others once that book is released.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the change that it can bring for others.
So what is like, I know some of our listeners would love to be able to connect. Maybe they have maybe they're listening, or they have someone they know that wants to be a teacher, or somewhere along their journey. They're not as far as long as they could, but listening to this podcast might spur them on to continue their journey if they're somewhere stuck along or not breaking through that obstacle. How would our listeners get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at Instagram.
Good old Insta. So
yes.
Yeah, so how will we find you?
Yeah, so we can link my
Instagram
in the show notes.
Oh yeah, right. I'll definitely put it in the show notes. But for those that are driving,
it's at Wandling_Hannah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll make sure that's in the show notes. So you'll be able to connect with Hannah if you have any questions about, teaching or some of the strategies that she's used personally about overcoming obstacles. Very good. Any last minute thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with of breaking through obstacles?
Yeah, life will always bring obstacles. And so breaking through obstacles, it just means deciding that you're going to overcome whatever the day has in store for you, and choosing joy for and hope for the next thing. And so, yeah, not letting obstacles become your world, but conquer obstacles by joy.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we are able to get together. What's thing is exciting that because you were on the podcast, because years ago, Hannah said, I want to be your 100th guest on your show. And I said, yes. I think it was like sometime maybe back in high school when you said that, or
potentially.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, right? When I first, and so Hannah said, I said, yes, let's have you the 100th guest on the show. So we are celebrating when this is launched, the 100th episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster.
Woohoo!
Woo! Yes, exactly. We need like some major celebration there. So really excited about that. But thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed our conversation, sharing your tips and resources, helping our listeners to really break through obstacles so they can achieve success.
Yeah, Dad, thank you for having me on and trusting me to share about leadership with your listeners.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, until next time, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying, be an obstacle buster and be resilient.